What's up, lovers of whiskey and watchers of YouTube? I'm the Malt activist, and in this video I want to talk to you about prejudice. That's right, or in other words, just being a straight up dick. Because that's what I was. I don't like to think I am now, not controlled by my prejudices, but essentially being prejudiced is hating on something without really knowing why. Which is why I just consider this a formal apology video to these 5 whiskeys that I thought I would really hate. But you know what? I did it. Before we begin, a big shout out to my first time viewers. Thank you for clicking through to this channel. If whiskey is your jam, then this channel is your thing. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, all of the above, none of the above. I'm just kind of glad that you're here. And to my returning viewers, as I always say, you guys are the wind beneath my wings. I love you guys. Have you ever walked into a store and seen a bottle on the shelf and you look at it and you'd be like, nah, I'm gonna hate this. You don't know anything about it. You just don't like the way it looks or the way it sounds. There's no rational explanation for your disdain. And that's such a sad state to be in, man. Not to be adventurous. Oh. And I was like that. I was kind of like that, I want to say 15, 20 years ago, when I thought, you know what, because I had drunk 8 different types of single malts, that I knew everything, and that I had these opinions that were set in stone, and anything outside of those opinions would make me a sellout. I was all of those things. Absolutely all of those things. Until some of the whiskeys on this list, they just absolutely surprised me. You know, I had them against my better judgment, or actually I'm going to say against my shitty judgment. I had them, I tried them, and I went, whoa, what an idiot I am. And I'm glad that happened, right? Because that opened up this whole new universe of whiskeys and flavors and profiles that I would not have tasted if I was, you know, a dick. So, very glad to report that I'm kind of not a dick anymore, hopefully. Or I'm a much less a dick than I was 20 years ago. At least I'm open to whiskeys, I'm open to new adventures, and this kind of bleeds into my real life as well. I'm a little more open about a lot of the things that I wasn't open about, you know. So yeah, I guess, without getting too philosophical, these are 5 whiskeys that surprised me because I had preconceived notions about them. And you know what? I'm glad they surprised me because I'm a more wiser, learned person for them. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go. Whiskey number 1. The first whiskey on my list, it's an interesting one because I don't think many people have heard of it, but I'm pretty sure a lot of you have drunk it. I'm talking about the backbone of the Ballantine's blend. I'm talking about the Glenburgie whiskey. Yes, that's right. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know about Glenburgie till a few years ago. I want to say a few years ago, I want to say 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And I drunk a fair bit of my Ballantines. There were some Ballantine blends that I liked, and there were some Ballantine blends that I didn't like. I don't like Ballantine's Finest, but I do really like the Ballantine 17, which very, very soft, delicate blend, which I really like. And yeah, it kind of stands on the back of the Glenburgie Spirit, which is owned by Pernod Ricard, by the way. So, Glenburgie, I didn't know anything about it. And when I heard about it, I was like, oh, it's one of those workhorse whiskeys that gets lost in a blend, and then who gives a shit, and why would I have it as a single malt? I don't really care. You know, some of the Ballantines I don't like, so it's probably shitty anyway. That was my mindset. But then I was introduced to the Ballantine 17. I was like, oh, this is a very good whiskey. You know, it doesn't blow you out of the water, but it's delicate, it's floral, it's buttery, it's not what you'd expect a typical blended whiskey to be, because it's quite sort of delicately constructed, and I'm gonna be honest, man, about 10-15 years ago, maybe 15, a certain Jim Murray of the Whiskey Bible, he made it his whiskey of the year. And please, caveat, I'm not a fan of Jim Murray at all, believe me. In fact, I don't really like him anyway, but that's not the point. But the fact of the matter is that whiskey got some spotlight, and it raised some eyebrows, and it piqued my curiosity, and I went and I drank it. And when I did, I was like, hey, this is not bad, this is quite a decent dram. And then when I found out that, oh, okay, Glenburgie is also part of this mix, I should try it. And that kind of pushed me in the direction. And I'm going to be honest, I was in Aberlour on a Speyside trip with my boys, and we were at this bar called the Mash Tun, which is just down the road from the Aberlour distillery. And I saw this Glenburgie sitting on the shelf. I'll flash it up on the screen now. It was from that boutique whiskey company, and it was a Glenburgie 18-year-old. And if I remember correctly, I'm gonna have to check the receipts on this one, by the way. I'm gonna have to check the receipts, but I think that Glenburgie was about, I want to say 55 something percent. No, it was 50.3% ABV. And I remember having a drink of it, and I was like, whoa, that is fantastic. Wow. And as luck would have it, our tasting at Aberlour, which was in the next hour, we sat down and we were served a Glenburgie 32. That's right. And let me see, let me flash it up on the screen now. It was bottled at a nice cask strength of 55.9% ABV. Now, granted, I kind of jumped off the deep end when it comes to Glenburgies. That boutique whiskey company is a beautiful independent bottler. Having a 32-year-old Glenburgie at cask strength is an experience onto its own. And so I was like, that's interesting. I thought I was gonna hate this spirit, but it's surprisingly really, really nice, which then got me interested in picking up an original bottle from the Ballantine's portfolio, the Glenburgie 15. Which, by the way, again, it's won a lot of awards, some in 2020, some in 2022. Do I think it's an absolutely award-winning whiskey? No, not really. But is it a very pleasant dram to drink? Yeah, I'd like to think so. Okay, let me put it up on the screen and I'll tell you a little bit about it. So the Glenburgie 15 is from the Speyside region, bottled at a fairly weak 40% ABV. It's completely ex-bourbon, around a median price range of about 50 to 55 pounds. And in terms of the flavor profile, we're talking about really nice poached pears, honey, malt, apples, toffee, a gentle oak. It's quite creamy, it's quite fruity, and maybe just a little bit of herbal notes in there as well. Again, it's for me, it was just a blend filler. That's all it was. It was just a blend filler to be lost among 30 other whiskeys that make up Ballantines, or 40 or 50 or whatever that number is. And I thought it's just another blend filler. But I felt that on its own, it was quite an interesting dram. It didn't deserve the hate that I gave it, which is entirely unfair. So basically what I'm saying is, if you do find yourself facing off with the Glenburgie in front of you, don't turn up your nose at it just because it's a blend filler for Ballantines. Try it. And frankly, what I would recommend is pick up something independent. Yeah, pick up something independent. They're reasonably priced because no one's really buying them, I guess. They're reasonably priced. They come in at a nice high strength than the 40% for the 15. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So yeah, Glenburgie. I thought I'd hate it, but I didn't. The second whiskey on this list is something that absolutely opened my eyes to this distillery and made me an absolute fan of this distillery, and it was the Deanston Virgin Oak whiskey. That's right, I was at a friend's place, I want to say 7-8 years ago, just hanging, and he actually brought it out and he said, hey, have you tried the Deanston? I have a Virgin Oak with me, you should try it. And I was like, why would I want to try a Deanston? And I was like, oh, Virgin Oak, yes, of course. Let's do something marketable, right? Whatever. Why can't you just mature it in proper first and second fill bourbons and get on with it? But then when I drank it, I was like, whoa, that's interesting, you know. And I just hated it because of, I want to say, a somewhat lackluster labeling. I hadn't really heard much about it, to be honest. I think it was just about making its resurgence, frankly. And the bottle was kind of nondescript. I thought it was a bit of a gimmick, you know, doing a whiskey in Virgin Oak. I was like, you know, nothing really ticked the box for me until a friend said, you should try it. And as I was bringing it to my nose, I was like, okay, dude, I know you're gonna hate it, but if you do hate it, don't make your friend uncomfortable by being a fucking elitist snob piece of shit that you are. Just pretend that you like it, because I'm pretty sure you're gonna hate it. But then when I brought it to my nose, I was like, what? Are you serious? And then I drank it, and then it just changed my perspective on Deanston as a distillery completely. And if you're following my channel for a while, you know that I'm a huge ambassador for not just the distillery, but for the Deanston 18. For me is just what a dram that whiskey is. Oh my god. The Deanston 12 is stunning, and their core range, just, you know what, beautiful. And I sat there thinking, ugh, this is gonna be shit, just for no reason at all. Yes, the definition of prejudice. Had no prior experience with Deanston, hadn't heard really anything about it. Just decided for the fuck of it that, you know what, I'm gonna hate it, just cause. But anyway, let me put up the Deanston Virgin Oak on the screen, and I will tell you about it. So this is non-age statement. It's matured, of course, in first fill Virgin American Oak, as in the name. Is bottled at a very nice 46.3% ABV, as are all Burn Stewart whiskies. In terms of tasting notes, oh, just perfect. Vanilla, lemon peel, fresh wood, barley sugar, biscuit, nutmeg. It has a really soft touch of char, a bit spicy, a bit dry, and you know what? It's very reasonably priced for roughly 30-35 pounds, depending where you buy it. And so, you know, you can't go wrong with a whiskey that tastes good, it feels good, it spends good, is easily available. There's no reason to hate this whiskey other than, you know, just being a complete dick about it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I genuinely thought I wouldn't like the Deanston. And because also, you know what, it didn't, for some reason, it didn't have a Scottish, it didn't feel like Deanston was a Scottish name for me. I think that's probably what it was. If it was called, I don't know, Glen Asshole, I would have drunk it. I'd be like, oh, that's I'm sure that's pretty good. The Valley of the Assholes. But it was called Deanston, and I was like, whatever. Who names their whiskey Deanston? And I was gonna hate it. But I'm so glad my friend told me to drink it. So glad I was polite. I was polite enough to take it from him despite my reservations, and I'm so glad I did, because it opened up this whole new world of Deanston whiskeys to me, and I'm such a massive fan of that distillery now. So I'm so glad. I thought I was gonna hate it, man, really, but I didn't. I loved it. Whiskey number 3 is something that I was gifted by a friend of mine, and when I received that, I was like, oh, what a stupid gimmick this is. I'm talking about the Highland Park Full Volume. Now, I know not many of you have heard of the Highland Park Full Volume. I'm not sure if it's a limited release or whether it's very market specific. I didn't see much, you know, literature around it, to be very honest. And to me, it seemed a bit of a gimmick. It was in their sort of newish bottles. It was a non-age statement whiskey, which I was like a little, but interestingly enough, it was a Highland Park matured fully in bourbon, which kind of caught my eye. because I'm a huge fan of the Highland Park cask strength bourbon, ex-bourbon series. I'm a huge fan of that. But at that time, I was going through a bad breakup with Highland Park. Got to be honest with you, there was like a slew of whiskeys that I drank, which I said, why? You used to be at the top of your game, and now what the fuck is this shit? And so it was during that period of breakup with Highland Park that I came across the Highland Park full volume. But you know what? Same thing. I looked at the bottle and I was like, ugh, what a gimmick. Who calls their whiskey full volume? I mean, what does that even mean? It's not even cask strength. Why would you call something full volume when it's not cask strength? Ugh, you idiots. And then I uncorked it and I poured it and I was like, fine, whatever. Somebody's given it to me. I can't gift it forward because, you know, whatever, I'm stingy like that. And then I brought it to my nose. My eyes popped up. I'm like, there's something bourbony and buttery about this that I really, really like. And then, yeah, it ticked all the boxes for me. So let me put it up on the screen and I'll tell you a little bit about it. So the Highland Park full volume is matured 100% in ex-bourbon barrels, bottled at a very lovely 47.2% ABV. In terms of tasting notes, I love the fact that it has this coconut cream, heather, just a very light, gentle smoke, butterscotch. It has a very oily texture. I get some white chocolate and some citrus and some gentle oak spices. In terms of the pricing, it seems like it's a bit on the higher side. I've been looking around and I don't know, it's around the 70 to 80, 85 pound mark, which I think is a bit high for a non-age statement whiskey. But I mean, this is not a budget whiskey video. It's just about, you know, it's about whiskeys that I thought I'd hate, but I didn't. And so this was one of them. Is it worth the money? I bought it when it was very, very cheap. I bought it for about 50 pounds or so. So then, yes, it was definitely worth the money. Is it worth the money now? I mean, what's 85 pounds to somebody? I don't know. So I'm going to reserve my judgment there in terms of its value for money, and just call out the fact that this is a good whiskey, and it does seem like it's a gimmick, but it's not really. And it tastes well. It drinks really, really well. It has a nice ABV on it. It has the characteristic Highland Park traits, but in this lovely bourbon umbrella, which I really, really like. So yeah, kudos. Brought out something which I thought I'd hate, but I didn't. I actually really, really like that whiskey. Whiskey number 4 is from Ireland, and I'm a big fan of Irish whiskeys. I probably wasn't, I want to say 10, 12, 13 years ago. And when I say I wasn't, it just meant that, again, I was prejudiced. I was like, no, the best whiskeys are Scotch whiskeys. And that's what I'm going to drink. And, the Irish, well, they're not really that impactful or that whatever. They don't pack a punch, and I need my whiskeys at cask strength. And, I was a dick. I was an absolute dick. And then I was sitting at someone's house, and there was this Teeling single grain from the Teeling distillery, and I was like, what a single grain whiskey? Who drinks single grain whiskey, and that too Irish whiskey? And I was like, this and matured in red wine casks. I was like, okay, fine, let's pull out all the stops. Let's try and make this as exotic as possible. And I was, at that time, I was like, considered myself a purist. I was like, just find a good bourbon barrel or a sherry cask and just fucking make the whiskeys the way they're meant to be. Don't be going to California and sourcing Californian red wine casks to mature your single grain whiskey. What the fuck? And I was like, and the same thing, just like with the Deanston, my friend said, hey man, you should try this. This is a good whiskey. And I said, oh, okay, just try it. And listen, try not to spit it out, because who drinks grain whiskeys? Jesus. And man, I love being proven wrong. It was such a great moment for me where my eyes lit up at the first nose, and I was like, okay, yes, I'm an idiot. I'm an absolute fucking idiot. That's what it means. And so, yeah, thought I was gonna hate it, but I didn't. So let me put it up on the screen. I'll tell you a little bit about it. So the Teeling single grain matured in red wine cask. It's actually Californian red wine cask. Bottled at a very, very nice 46%. It has a lovely sort of, red currants, marshmallow, a lovely sweet spice. I find cranberry in there, some cinnamon. It has a creamy oak, quite fruity and smooth, much to my liking, and very, very reasonably priced for anywhere between 40 and 45 pounds, depending where you look. So, very, very decently priced whiskey, a very different kind of whiskey. The fact that it's, single grain whiskey, which means it has less than 50% malted barley. I don't know the recipe, to be honest, but it has, it's mainly grains other than, majority grains other than malted barley, right? So like it a lot. Beautiful mouthfeel, and nose is very nice. It drinks very, very nice, and it spends very nice as well. I mean, 45 pounds, not a bad price for a whiskey that is quite delectable. So yeah, I'd written it off just by hearing that it's a grain whiskey, and I was like, who drinks grain whiskeys? And that too, Irish grain whiskeys? What? I'm too good for that shit. And as it turns out, I'm not. I'm just a dick. And finally, the last whiskey on this list that absolutely blew me away when I first had it, despite my preconceived notions of, it being a bit of, gimmicky, because it's like one of those first-timer whiskeys, is the Ardnahoe Inaugural Release Expression. Man, I remember during my trips to Islay, on our way to Bunnahabhain, we'd see the Ardnahoe distillery coming up, which, by the way, at that time, I'm not sure if he's still there, but Mr. Jim McEwen was at the helm of Ardnahoe distillery. If I remember correctly. Do I remember correctly? I think I'm right about that. I hope I'm not wrong. Again, like I said, I mean, who does research on this channel? Nobody. So anyway, so it was a big name, it was a big Islay name. I'm pretty sure it was Jim McEwen. And so I was like, okay, so Jim's done with Bruichladdich, and he's now moving on to Ardnahoe, and we'll see what he does. I have huge respect for Jim McEwen, by the way, so I was like, okay, let's see what he does. And then I heard that they came out with their 5-year-old inaugural release, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give this one a pass, because nobody does well on their absolute first whiskey ever. Nobody does well on that. Sorry, I don't care who you are. Jim McEwen, led Bruichladdich from the shits to the top of the mountain. But over a period of years, he had to experiment, he had to find the right mix, and so on and so forth. And I thought that's what he's gonna have to do with Ardnahoe as well. Even Kilchoman, which is one of my favorite distilleries in the whole world, their first few whiskeys that came out, I kind of didn't like them, So I was like, okay, this is probably true for Ardnahoe as well. They'll produce some shitty ones, and then eventually I guess they'll get good. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one a pass, because I'm pretty sure nobody gets it right on their first try. And then we were at the distillery, and of course curiosity got the better of me, even though I was thinking it's gonna be shit. Curiosity got the better of me. I found it, I drank it, and I stood in the visitors center at the Ardnahoe distillery, convincing myself that yes, I have to stop being an elitist snob for no reason at all. I'm a nobody. I'm an idiot because I have these preconceived notions about things that I shouldn't be having preconceived notions about. And so I think that was the day when I said, okay, you know what, enough. I was giving myself enough leeway before that, where I was like, it's okay, yeah, so you get some right, you get some wrong. No, but I consistently got them wrong. And so yes, the Ardnahoe Inaugural Special Release, what a beautiful whiskey that is. So let me put it up on the screen. I'll tell you a little bit about it. The Ardnahoe inaugural release, it came out in 2024. It's a mix of bourbon and sherry casks, bottled at a decent 50% ABV. We're looking at very lovely lemon, seaweed, and TCP, so a really nice mix of that iodine and citrus working for me. It has a lovely creamy smoke, some citrus zest. It's quite, it has a soft cereal note to it, touch medicinal, quite maritime, beautifully balanced. A bit expensive, I feel, for about 75 pounds. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, about that much at the distillery. I think 75 pounds for a 5-year-old whiskey is probably on the higher side, but there's a novelty factor to it. It's the newest distillery on Islay, so I guess it comes with a price tag, I guess. But all of that aside, what a wonderful dram! What an absolute wonderful dram! And I was ready to dismiss it just because I was like, oh, this is the first one that they're doing. How can they get it right the first time around? And that's such a wrong way of thinking of things, because even with kids, you mess up the first one. Even your first kid is a bit of a screw up. It's the second one that kind of turns out all right. Yeah, first kid, by the way. I'm the eldest in my family. So yeah, the Ardnahoe inaugural release, 5 years old, a bit pricey for 75 pounds, but I think worth the effort. Worth the effort to try it, to find it, to buy it, to drink it. And if you can actually experience it at the distillery, I think that makes for a wonderful experience too, because and by the way, so it's owned by Douglas Lang, if you didn't know that, Ardnahoe. And in their visitor center, you can buy a ton of really, really, really excellent Douglas Lang whiskeys. So yeah, the Ardnahoe inaugural release. I thought I was gonna hate it, but no, I actually really, really liked it. So there you have it, man. There you have it. 5 whiskeys that I thought I'd hate, but I don't. And I'm kind of glad I had that experience, because it opened up my mind, my brain, my heart, my emotions to so many other things in the world, not just whiskey. About not dismissing something just because I'm a dick, but to always have a higher threshold. Have a much higher threshold for wanting to like something. Oh, did I say that in reverse? Have a much lower threshold? I don't know, whatever that means. I think I have a lower, have a lower threshold. Yeah, I'm new to this shit. So yes, have a lower threshold. Have a much lower threshold. Be more open. Be more forgiving. Be more accepting. Be more positive. And I think that's what I take away from this experience. So yes, 5 whiskeys, fantastic whiskeys. I thought I was gonna hate, but I didn't. So thank you for being here with me. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm the Malt Activist. Until next time.